Welcome, viewers and listeners, to another edition of CHP Talks. I'm here with a repeat guest, one of my favorite people in the Christian Heritage Party. That's Mr. Jim Enos, who is our Ontario president. He's also the CEO of the Christian Heritage Party, Hamilton Mountain EDA. He's the president also of Hamilton Wentworth Family Action Council. Jim's consistent message over his 30 years of involvement of engaging in the public square has been for Christians to participate in public policy formation by taking their places at the public table while policy is being made rather than only protesting after policy is passed. Jim lives in the Hamilton area with his wife, Penny. Jim, thanks for joining us today. It's good to have you back on the show, and I'm excited about some of the news that you shared with me this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Rod. I'm really glad to be back and glad to bring some more news on what's going on in Hamilton with regard to bus shelter ads.
Well, last time we had you on, I guess, was August 9th, and we were just at the beginning stages then of launching a formal judicial review with the Hamilton City Council. Do you want to review for our viewers and listeners, what led up to that and where we're at now? What do we see happening going forward?
Sure. Why don't I just for a moment just share the image that Hamilton's so concerned about.
And for those listening in on the podcast, you can't see it there, but it's a picture of a woman, and it's on a poster, and it just says woman, an adult female. And then our message there as CHP is bringing respect for life and truth to Canadian politics. So go ahead, Jim, and explain what happened with our proposed bus shelter poster.
Yeah, well, we had this ad, and as you say, it said woman, an adult female, and it was rejected. The city of Hamilton said, well, we can't put that up. And we got an official letter from them on July the 6th. It's a 5-page letter. I certainly don't intend on sharing the whole letter, but I would like to share, and I'm going to screen share it at the same time because it's an actual clip from the letter. The conclusion, it's called the conclusions in the city letter. So I'm going to go back to screen share here in a second.
So this is the city of Hamilton's justification for refusing to allow us to put our poster up on their bus shelters.
Yes. In other words, how dare you? How dare you say that a woman is an adult female? So in the conclusion, they write, in conclusion, while we steadfastly support the principle of free expression, we must also acknowledge the potential real-life impact of this proposed advertisement. Imagine a transgender woman preparing to board a bus, only to be confronted with a message that denies her identity and devalues her lived experience. As the foregoing evidence suggests, the psychological harm caused by such an explicit public rejection of her identity could be significant, potentially inciting feelings of exclusion, shame, or even fear for personal safety. Such a hostile environment could discourage her from using our transit system altogether, disrupting her daily life and access to our city services. This scenario is not hypothetical, but rather a tangible risk, supported by academic studies, police statistics, and consultation with local LGBTQ representatives, which underscores the potential harm the advertisement could inflict. It is therefore imperative that we make decisions that prioritize the safety and well-being of our transit users above all. Thus, to provide an inclusive, respectful, and safe environment for all citizens, we find it necessary to reject this advertisement. We deeply appreciate your understanding of the complexities of the situation, and we stand firm in our commitment to maintaining a transit system that serves all Hamiltonians equitably, and respectfully. Well, I say, in order to be inclusive and respectful of all citizens, they exclude the definition found in most dictionaries and the definition of CHP Canada. The city must exclude CHP Canada because this is what inclusion is all about.
Yeah.
So, well, we thought and hoped that the city might back down, given our unanimous ruling victory in 2018, where 3 judges ruled unanimously in our case on a previous bus shelter ad. But there was no sign, so we pressed on. On August the 4th, CHP Canada application for judicial review by the Ontario Superior Court was approved, and the process continues to move forward. So, I mean, before an application gets approved, somebody has to look at it and deem it worthy of their time. So somebody in that system says, yeah, that's worth reviewing. And what I like to do now is we made a 10-page application. Again, I'm not going to read all 10 pages, but I would like to show a screen share and read just four sentences out of that application. It kind of it shows what we're arguing.
Okay, sure.
The city's decision, so I'm reading right from the application, the city's decision and the reasons given for it are unreasonable. The city's reasons for that the proposed ad endangers members of the transgender community while simultaneously acknowledging that the proposed ad contains a simple definition that can be found in most dictionaries. So therefore, dictionaries must threaten people.
Yeah.
P, by relying on its advertising policy to censor political speech it disagrees with, the city is violating CHP's Section 2A Charter Rights to Freedom of Conscience and Religion, as well as its Section 2B Charter Rights to Freedom of Thought, Belief, Opinion, and Expression, including freedom of the press and other forms of communication. In censoring CHP's political speech, Hamilton violates its duty of state neutrality. Q, the proposed ad does not endanger transgender people in any way. R, the decision and reasons effectively take the unreasonable position that Judeo-Christian Canadians who believe in and defend the sanctity of one's God-given biological gender may not express their Judeo-Christian views or in any way affirm their inherent worth, value, dignity, and sanctity of biological women. So that's our argument in a nutshell. Did you want to chat about any of that before I go a little deeper?
Well, sure. I mean, I think we've discussed it a couple times on the program here, and it's just simply stating biological facts. I mean, they're biblical facts. In the beginning, God created them male and female, created us, the human race, male and female. But also it's biological facts that people are either born with XX or XY chromosomes, and that determines whether they are male or female. And this whole, we certainly take issue with this whole attempt to take a whole generation of young Canadians and get them confused about their gender and thinking about maybe they're born in the wrong body, or they should have, somehow try to manipulate their body with puberty blockers, hormones, and surgery, which of course does not change whether they're a male or female. That's kind of our position on all that. But certainly freedom of speech is the central element here, whether we have the right as Canadians to speak up about these things or whether we need to be silent and just let political correctness dominate the scene.
Yeah, we have the right to be wrong, actually. even if we're incorrect, we can still we still have the right to express that. I mean, the city is expressing their. If you've seen some of the bus ads they've been putting out, very and they got banners hanging on street light poles now, all kinds of imagery that would suggest that men can be women. So
Yeah.
they're wrong, but they still get to put it up there.
And when they do it, it's at taxpayer expense.
Yeah, we pay. Yeah, we pay for both ads, ours and theirs.
Yeah, we want to pay for our own ads, but we have no choice as taxpayers. We end up paying for a message we disagree with, but they don't even want us to be able to put up our message, even though we're going to pay for it ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I understand sensitivities. I'm not against sensitivities. I understand that. But what we do here is we pretend we're sensitive, and if I'm sensitive, you can't disagree with me. So really, for someone who's sensitive, they're very powerful. They control the dialogue. They control the ideology of the classroom. They control everything. But don't say anything because you might upset me.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's completely false. I think it's completely using a narrative, a false narrative to look like they're the victim. When in our mind, we believe the children are being victimized with this kind of teaching.
Yeah, and it's really, in a funny way, it's leaning on the gentleness and the freedom of expression that comes from a Judeo-Christian heritage. We have allowed people to do and say things that we disagree with, and we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or cause harm to anybody. But when the tables are turned, it's somehow we can be called hateful, and those who are turning the tables somehow hide behind this kind of a appearance of being kind and gentle and sensitive, right? As you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I mean, let's be honest. Let's not paint everybody with the same brush. I always try to be careful about that, because within this faction of people, there are people who are sincerely hurting, and no, I'm not out to hurt anyone. That's not my goal. But that doesn't make what they're believing true.
Right.
But to make it, what really gets me problematic is when that untruth is put on kids. These kids aren't concrete thinkers, and so it's just very unfair, and it's very hurtful. But what I'd like to do now is, if I could, we thought, once we put in for the judicial review and we put our argument in, and we thought the city's lawyers would see that and say, well, you know what, you better advise the city to pull back. But they haven't done that. So we went another step. On September 22nd, our law firm, the Acacia Group, also notified the Attorney General of Canada and the Attorney General of Ontario of our judicial review proceedings, and served notice of constitutional question. As I understand things, the two attorneys general's offices may also want to enter into the proceedings. So it may not just be the city of Hamilton in the court. We may see the federal government there, the provincial government. They may come in, they may take up sides with the city. And well, all the power to them, because when they lose, it's going to be all the more glorious for us.
The bigger they are, where do they fall?
Yeah, the harder they fall. It's not glorious for us, it's glory for the Lord. It's going to be glory to the Lord because they all went down.
Yeah.
The bigger are they, the harder they fall. I want to try and share a couple. I'm going to go to screen share just one more time here. I think this is the last time I'm going to do it. Just going to share a couple of sentences out of the notice of constitutional question that went to the two attorneys general.
Sure.
I think it's interesting for people to see the actual filings that are happening. So these are actually clips right out of the application, or right out of the notice. So the following is a legal basis for the constitutional question 13. The decision infringes Section 2B of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I'm going to skip past a couple of sentences there. It's just a lot of legal language. and such limits cannot be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. And number 14, the advertising policy violates Section 2B of the Charter, and such limits cannot be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. And so
powerful statements.
They're powerful statements, and they're powerfully true. I mean, the argument is really simple. There's nothing complicated here. And it does bother me because as a Hamilton taxpayer, I'm paying not only for all the staff at City Hall, which are spending their time fighting us, but we're paying upwards of a $250,000 fee to a law firm. And we believe that the city's already been advised they're going to lose, but they're doing it anyway. And you know, and I'm paying for this.
You're talking about the city's legal team that the taxpayers will end up on the hook for, win or lose. They're going to be paying the city's legal team up to $250,000.
Yeah, we believe their fees are going to be in the $250,000 range. We have reason to believe that. They're a Toronto law firm. They couldn't get a Hamilton law firm to represent them.
Yeah.
We know a little more, but we're not saying too much.
Yeah.
And then came this morning. Well, today is Monday, November the 27th. I know you'll be broadcasting this on the 30th, but November the 27th, I received an email from our law firm, again, Acacia Group, with a link to an article in the National Post. And the article headline was this: Court victory for teacher silenced for transgender book criticism. The article was about a ruling from an Ontario Superior Court judge who ruled against the Waterloo School Board for shutting down the presentation of a teacher who was expressing concern in a public meeting about transgender-themed books in elementary school libraries. This ruling was so recent that it hasn't even been posted publicly yet. Our lawyer had to contact that teacher's lawyer to get the posting. Wow. And the National Post had already written the article on it, so they must have been obviously very closely linked to the office. And in the ruling, here's what two things that the judge wrote. One, the Human Rights Code does not prohibit public discussion of issues related to transgenderism or minors in transgenderism. It does not prohibit public discussion of anything.
Yeah, well, that's amazing.
And, well, we knew it.
Yeah, but it's a great judgment. Sometimes it's amazing when one of the judges sees the same thing we see.
Then he also wrote, I find it regrettable that the defendant, in other words, the school board, in other words, in this case, it's the chair of the school board. I find it regrettable that the defendant who is trying to shut down debate is an arm of the government. Regard for the historical and present plight of the transgendered does not negate Section 2B of the Charter, he said. Wow. In other words, all topics are open to discussion in public, and no human rights code prohibits this. We do not have to agree with public policy, and we don't have to be silent about our disagreement. However, I would advise that we may not use freedom of speech to call for violence against individuals, but opposing an ideology is not at all calling for violence.
Yeah. In fact, when we won the case in 2018 against Hamilton for the similar bus shelter ad debate, part of our victory was the fact that we are a political party. I mean, an individual in Canada has the right of free speech, but political party certainly does as well, because if you do not allow opposition parties to bring up ideas with which the government disagrees, you no longer live in a free society, right? No.
Right. I mean, you're right. There's a higher level of freedom. There's a higher need of freedom, and there is a higher level of freedom for a political party because they are actually the voice of many people. And so it's important that parties have that ability to speak. Some people would say that, what's the big deal? It's just a poster. It's not about the poster. It's about the right to post your beliefs in a public place. The city of Hamilton may own the bus shelters, but the city of Hamilton is not a private entity. It belongs to everybody that pays taxes. If someone say, well, why didn't you go on a private billboard? Couldn't you go on a private billboard? The answer is, yeah, we might have been able to go onto a private billboard, yes. But that's not the point. The point is, we don't want to be shut out of the public. We are the public. And we're not asking that people who suffer from transgender confusion and so on, and I do call it suffering, it is a suffering. We're not asking them not to be part of society. We're not asking them not to be able to speak about things they believe in. But at the same time, they may believe what they wish. But we cannot be asked to believe it. If you want to believe you're something else, well, that's up to you. But if you want me to believe, well, that's up to me. And we're not really trying so much. I mean, part of it is we're obviously protecting what the Word of God says about our gender. That's very true. But we don't need to protect God. He's more than able to protect himself. But our deepest concern is for the harm being done to children. And I can't go through it all today, but if you've seen the escalation of the numbers of minors that are subjecting themselves to transgender medications and surgeries and so on, it's just climbing insurmountably, 5,000% since 2019, all during COVID, where kids were at home spending a lot of time on social media. So we know it's influenced, by social media and by TV and by teachers and you have a child who has a funny notion that they'd like to be something other than what they are, and so someone tells them that they can be that. What do you think they're going to do?
So, Jim, as I started to mention. We have another example in Finland. Our friend, Member of Parliament, Päivi Räsänen, has just won a court case in Finland as well. And that she had posted or tweeted in the beginning, God made them male and female, and some Bible passages. And for that, they were trying to prosecute her for hate crimes.
2 years in prison.
A Member of Parliament. And she first won at the local level, and then the public prosecutor tried to take her to the Helsinki Court of Appeals, and she just won there, a wonderful victory. And hopefully they will, the prosecutor will stop the persecution and prosecution at this point. But anyway, that's an international victory that we can celebrate here in Canada as well, and say that she's standing up for us across the water in another country, but it's the same principle that we're all standing for together here. So we've retained the Acacia Group as our legal team, and we've set up a fund to cover the costs of that. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that? Because I think we still have a need for funds to come in to help cover those costs. So maybe.
Our estimated cost for the beginning to end of this court case will be in around the $75,000 range. And before we committed to moving ahead, we asked for people to make pledges. And if they were substantial, then we would move ahead. Well, within about 5 days, we had received over $40,000 in pledges, over half the pledges. And so we opted to move ahead. And right now the pledging is at about 51,000. And a good percentage of that has come in. People have made good on their pledges. We still have some who have not. We have to remind them one more time. But we're a long ways down the road of that 50,000. But that still leaves $25,000 that we should have in order to pay all of our fees. Now the good news is, if you still pay taxes, if you're still a tax-paying person, for the first $400 that you give, you can get a $300 tax rebate. So it's only going to cost you $100 to give $400, and that's the benefits of having a political party and in particular a Christian-based party. Christians can get together and fight in the courts on issues that affect their daily lives, like this one, and try to do that as an individual. Try to come up with $75,000 on your own, let alone after tax money. So it's really a great benefit for people to consider making upwards of a $400 donation, receiving a $300 tax credit, and being part of this victory that we believe is going to happen.
Yeah, if folks wanted to help us with this very important campaign, they could go to chp.ca, hit the donate button, and they fill out the amount they're prepared to donate. Of course, credit card information, that kind of stuff. And then there's a place for a note at the bottom. And in the note, they would want to write for the Hamilton court case or the Hamilton bus shelter case. And then your donation would be used for our legal costs as much as is required. And you would get a tax credit for, as Jim mentioned, contributions to a political party. If you have not already given your maximum this year, the first $400, you get 75% of that back. So it's a great way to help out. This is a very important cause, and we sure appreciate those who are helping us fight this battle in Hamilton. Jim, anything else that you want to tell folks before we close off for the day?
Not really, other than I really give the glory to the Lord once again. I mean, he's just incredible. He knows the beginning from the end, and he always takes us through. And here we go again. It's going to be a huge victory. Everything's going that direction. I guess there's always a chance it could go the other way, but this ruling today makes it very unlikely. But you know, Rod, we never did make our decisions based on what or might not happen. We've done it based on what needs to happen.
Right.
And what needs to happen is Christians need to be vocal in the public square.
Right.
And you can run around in parades with signs and all kinds of stuff and throw rocks at the police like some people do. But that's not really our way. We want to be peaceful and reasonable. And for us as a party, we feel that our best approach is to be civil. And when we're turned away, to challenge it in the courts. It goes so much further than protesting and so on. I don't think really at the end of the day that politicians pay an awful lot of attention to the protests. But a court ruling, they have no choice.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Jim Enos, I want to thank you publicly once again for taking the lead role in this, helping us bring this case to the courts. First of all, you designed the poster, and that if Hamilton had just put the poster up like they do with everybody else's posters, nothing more would need to have been said. There'd been no need to go to court. But when they say no, then we say yes, and it's time to let decision be made on a judicial level in mind with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, our constitutional privileges of free speech as citizens of Canada. And thank you for taking the lead on that. Thanks for being with us today. And we certainly look forward to victory in this case in Hamilton.
Yes, thanks, Rod. You know, I was just going to mention one other thing. I don't think we've heard from the Conservatives or the PPC yet that they want to get in and help us here. They don't want to be interveners. Have you heard from any other parties that want to join us on this case?
Come to think of it, no, I have not been called. I think my phone number is pretty easy to find. Pierre hasn't picked up the phone. Certainly Jagmeet Singh, he'd be on the other side if he were intervening. And Trudeau, they'd be siding with Hamilton. So
so I mean, you know, where are these parties that are so pro-family? Where are they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, well, and with that, I just want to invite folks, if you're listening to this, maybe you are not already a member of the Christian Heritage Party and you share our point of view that we have a right to free speech and things like gender and marriage and protection of innocent human life. These are important concepts to speak about and to, if necessary, fight about in the courts. Then consider joining us when you go to chp.ca to make a contribution to our campaign. Go one step further and take out a membership, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I agree. And I had a meeting on Saturday and more people signed up. There is a flow of people coming our way.
Wonderful. Well, God bless you, Jim. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. And we look forward to having another victory in the courts that we can cheer about and share with our friends and neighbors. So thanks.
For sure. Bye-bye, Rod.
Bye-bye.